All right, joining us now, former coach, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, longtime coach of the Cowboys and in the NFL, the great Dave Campo. Morning, Dave. Coach, how you doing?
Good morning, RJ, Bobby. Good to hear from you guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. You know, Bobby's under the weather. He's got whatever Shan had, and Shan made him sick. But other than that, we're doing good. How are things? What are you doing with yourself these days?
Well, I'm actually doing radio, sports radio, and a little bit of television down here in Jacksonville, Florida, and enjoying it. It's one of those things where I stay close to the game, but it doesn't affect my stomach and my heart as much as coaching did.
You know, Coach, I know that you're a big fan of Mike Zimmer. I got a chance to do Cowboys Crosstalk with you back in December when Jimmy got put into the Ring of Honor. And, you know, it's funny, you were telling some reflective stories about the 90s Cowboys, and Zim was always tied into those. It felt like some of those stories that you were telling. But we saw you on Twitter yesterday really speaking out and giving the seal of approval to Mike Zimmer. Why are you such a big fan of Mike Zimmer, and why do you think Cowboys fans should be excited about what he's going to do with this defense?
Well, there's a number of things. First of all, you know, I started with him back in 1980 and 81 when I was a defensive coordinator at Weber State. And Mike was our linebacker coach, young linebacker coach. And the first, thing I learned about him was that he was very passionate about what he did and very outspoken and just a tough coach, which he has that reputation now throughout his career. That started it, and then I was fortunate enough with when Barry Switzer came into the Cowboys while I was a secondary coach, and I was able to get Mike on as assistant secondary coach. Then he was promoted to the secondary coach and then to the coordinator when I became the head coach. The thing I like about Zim is a number of things, but the first one is I loved him because he was not a yes man. And when I say that, you know, he has his own ideas, and he's very transparent, and everybody knows what those ideas are, including the players, the head coach, whoever it is. And it's one thing to not be a yes man and be an idea man, but in the end, when it was all said and done, whenever I said to him, okay, Zim, that's great, we're doing it this way, that's the way we did it. So from a loyalty standpoint, I thought that's one of his strengths. I think one of the things he brings to the table is the fact that, you know, he does have a passion for winning. He has his own way of doing it. And, it's going to be his responsibility for everybody on that defense to buy in. And because of the credentials he has, I believe he'll be able to do that.
Dave Campo joining us on the D&M Leasing Hotline on 105 to the Fan. I know he's been like an analyst and consultant over the last couple of years. I don't really know what that job entails. I guess it's different every spot, but like, how difficult do you think it is to go from like not coaching, taking a couple years off from the day-to-day grind back into it? Like, you're still obviously keeping up with the game. The sport is the sport, but the sport does change. Like, how difficult do you think that would be?
I don't think it'll be very difficult because, number one, he has the same thing I have down here, NFL Plus Premium, where you can watch every game and watch all 22 when you do it. And, I feel like I could go back and coach right now because I've stayed up with what's going on in the league and that type of thing. And I think he'll have that. And I think he's, once you're a coach, you're a coach. And I think he understands, look, he will be one of those guys that the first one into the office and the last one to leave. So with that kind of a mentality, he's got to get the right people to go with him, and everybody's going to have to buy in. But I don't think that absence is that big a deal because he can coach. He understands defense. He understands the principles of defense and what it takes to win. So, I feel like he'll be able to make that adjustment without any question in my mind.
Coach, you mentioned a few minutes ago that Zim's a tough coach, and he, there's been the talk of, well, is he too gruff a personality to deal with this new school player? And he even said, in his press conference, he was like, yeah, I know some people think I have the reputation of being kind of a jerk, but look at the testimony of the guys that I've worked with. What is he in terms of how would you describe that personality? Is he one of these guys who's kind of just the tough love approach, and ultimately the players end up respecting him for it in the end? Do you think he can work with this modern player?
Oh, absolutely. The one thing I think Zim has is, first of all, when you come in, he is a Super Bowl winner. And he has coached outstanding players like Sanders and Woodson and, a bunch of the guys we had in Dallas. And he had a bunch of guys in Cincinnati and Minnesota that did well with him. I think he comes in with credentials. And I think the credentials part of it, as long as he's transparent and they know coming in what he expects, the credentials are an automatic start to respect. Well, if you respect somebody, I think people say, everybody says the players have changed and this and that. They still want to be coached and they still crave discipline. Now, the other thing is Zim will not back down. In other words, what you see is what you get. And a player, if he wants to be successful, I said in that Twitter, you saw it, he's looking for lions, not the lions that are in the zoo that get fed every day like some of the people in the NFL are today with all the money running around. He wants the lions that live in the jungle that have to get up every day, and they have to hunt to eat. So he's looking for hunters, and the guys are going to have to respond to that, or else they're not going to be on the field.
Coach, how different is Zim's philosophy from, say, Dan Quinn's, just schematically?
Well, I think it's a little bit different from the standpoint that I think Zim has a plan that allows him to put people in the positions that are best for them to be able to, go from a good player to possibly a great player. And I think Dan Quinn might have been, and again, I don't know Dan Quinn that well. I know him as a person because he's a great guy. And he is a little bit, in my mind, a little bit too close to the players from a buddy-buddy standpoint. Zim will not be that way. So I think Zim understands the game more. But let me be perfectly clear. The problems that Dallas had in defense down the stretch was not all Dan Quinn. Some things are going to have to be done in the scouting department to get a little bit more physical with that defense, especially inside on the D-line, and the linebackers were awful small. So there's going to be a number of things that he can do, to help that, along with the scouting department. And also, Zim is a smart guy, and he can evolve. If he has to coach a 3-4, he'll coach a 3-4. If he has to coach a 4-3, he'll coach a 4-3. He's very adaptable with that kind of stuff. So I believe he'll put the people into the right spots. And I think down the stretch, Dallas really was hurt on the teams that could run the football on him. And I promise you, Zim will stop the run. That I don't have any question about that.
Coach, and we're talking with former Dallas Cowboys head coach Dave Campo here. When you saw the end of the season, you just made reference to it, how they struggled a little bit down the stretch. When you see this Cowboys team down the stretch, what do you look at and say that you think they're missing? What is it that's separating them right now from the San Franciscos and Baltimores and Kansas City? Why are they not quite on that level?
Well, I think they're small on defense, first of all. And that to me is okay. You can be small at linebacker like we were in the 90s, and when you have guys up front that can control the line of scrimmage on the first level. And I don't believe they have that. I believe that they have all pass rushers in that defensive line. That's okay on third down, but on first and second down, you better have a couple guys inside. When they lost Van Der Esch, they lost a run defender, and then the two inside tackles are not as physical as they need to be, in my opinion. So they have to change that. You want to find somebody obviously that can, defend the run and the pass in there. But it looked to me like, from a philosophy standpoint, it looked like they were rushing the passer on every down with all of their front guys. And, that left the linebackers to be able to handle blocks and opened up some seams. So I think they can fix that. They're going to have to, get some guys that are physical inside, and I think that will help them a great deal.
Dave Campo joining us here at 105 through the Fan. We had a lot of players on during Super Bowl Radio Row Week. Former players, former Cowboys from the 90s team, Moose, Emmett. They kind of came away that they were like disgusted with what happened and how the season ended. Like, do you share that feeling? Like, do you think there's just an overall, like, I don't want to say culture problem, but issue here?
Well, I look at it this way. I'm more frustrated than disgusted. I think that they have, with the scouting department that they have, with Will McClay, and I think Jerry and Steve has changed, evolved over the years to, be better in that area in the personnel department. I think they have the players on that team to get it done. So there's obviously another issue. We went through it here, guys. I'm a Jaguar fan too now, especially doing the, Jaguar post-game show and some of that stuff. The same thing happened. There was an issue in the locker room somewhere along the line where they didn't show up at the end of the season. And, I think there's something there that has to be fixed. And I really think it's just a fire-up attitude that I think Zim brings that to it. And I think Mike McCarthy feels like he can fix the things on offense. But one of their problems was I don't believe that they were as good a run team this year in comparison to where they've been before when they had Zeke Elliott and Pollard. And some of the linemen have been banged up. So, I'm more frustrated that they haven't been able, after 3-12-4 seasons, to be able to do more in the playoffs. But when you really look at the playoffs down the stretch, the teams that can run and stop the run are the ones that usually are successful in those big games.
Coach, when we talk about the physicality issue, I know that's something you've mentioned. I've heard Nate Newton talk about that, Emmitt Smith, Darren Woodson. They've talked about physicality, toughness, and that lacking here. Is that something that the Cowboys have to identify in other players and acquire them, or do you think you can bring toughness out of a current group of players? Is it possible to coach toughness?
Well, I'm not sure that you can really coach toughness. I think you can maybe improve aggressiveness. In other words, don't accept a guy making a business decision on a tackle. Force the guy to make the tackle. The guy's getting paid. You can do that, I think. But as far as just being tough, that lion mentality, I'm not sure that you can do that. I think they have to look for that more in the draft and in free agency. And again, it's not that easy. I'm not sure that it's an automatic fix with players, because you only have an opportunity to do so much in those areas. It's not like college where you can bring in 30 guys and hit on 20 of them, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
In the NFL, that doesn't happen. So, I'm hopeful that a change of attitude, like I said earlier, I don't think a defensive team will show up not ready to play with Zimmer there. I just know too much about the guy to know that he's not going to accept that.
Are you still convinced Dak is the guy?
Yeah, you know what? I love Dak. I'll be honest with you. And again, I'm not there every day. I see the things that have happened with him in some critical situations where he feels like he has to do more than he's capable of doing. The guy you just don't go out and find quarterbacks. He's one of the top, in my opinion, 6 or 7, and probably even maybe 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the league. They didn't lose that game, even though they were a little out of sync offensively for whatever reason. They didn't lose that game because of Dak Prescott. There were a lot of other issues, and you have to surround Dak. That's why I say they need to be a little bit stronger in the run game and some of that kind of thing to support him. I think that you don't. I think you pay the guy because I think you're going to have a hard time going out and find anybody better. But I truly believe that they have the personnel there with a few additions here or there that they can go all the way.
Why does Bobby hate Jacksonville so much?
I don't know that. I don't know why. Listen, I love Jacksonville, and I think they have some pretty good players down here as well.
No, Coach. My issue is the city of Jacksonville. I don't love the social scene, is all, Coach.
You mean to tell me that you were upset when Jacksonville beat Dallas in overtime last year? That's the bottom line, right there.
Yeah, maybe it's that. Maybe it's that, Coach.
Coach, it was great to catch up with you, man. We really appreciate it. We will talk to you again soon.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys, for having me on. And believe me, I might talk Jacksonville, but in reality, it's go Cowboys. I want Jerry to get another Super Bowl, and hopefully it will come.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it will. All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Have a good one, guys. See ya.